I started this podcast with a very simple mission: to help people on their mental wellness journey. Whether you're feeling stuck in life, or maybe worse, you're navigating depression, my guests and I each week are here to help.
No matter how down and out you are, no matter how poor you are, you have tremendous power.
And this week, I think we are going to deliver on that promise more than ever. Today, I am joined by my very good friend, Tyler Ramsey. Tyler is the host of the podcast Punk Rock Sober, but today he is here to talk through the most important takeaways from the last 6 episodes of No Magic Pill.
Jim Kwik. So he had a point: find little things that you can do with a 0% chance that you'll fail and build those up.
This is not a recap show or a highlight reel, but instead a deep conversation about what is actually working for both of us and what are the insights shared from our guest that deserve to be unpacked in greater detail. We spend so much time focused on what's wrong in our lives that we don't put enough attention on what's going right. Whether you've watched every episode of No Magic Pill or are just joining us for the first time this week, this conversation will leave you with very practical tips and tools to help you on your mental wellness journey. I want to get right into it. So in the past 6 weeks, we've had Jewel, Gabor Maté, Garrett Gee, Joshua Bassett, Paul Conti, and Jim Kwik. So amazing guest.
Amazing.
What piece of advice from one of them really stood out? Something that really you were able to put into practice right away?
I'll tell you what stood out to me right away, that blew me away, that was the easiest, most practical step that you could insert in your life and just be better.
Okay.
And it's from Jewel, and it was journaling of all things.
Journaling.
Journaling for me has been really pivotal. I realized when my mom left and my dad was raising me, I noticed I kind of started lying. I was trying to change behavior, everything, to get my dad to not hit me.
Wow.
It felt like being lost in a forest. So I started writing whatever the truth was that I wasn't telling people. I looked at it kind of like a little roadmap.
She made this comment: I can change my life one thought at a time. She really got detailed into it, and she got so present that she got to a place where all of a sudden worrying about a future that wasn't even there she couldn't even deal with it because she was so present. And she was able to look at her behavior and how she was acting, and her whole life got better because of journaling.
Wow.
The easiest of all things.
I mean, the thing I like about that, and really the whole show with Jewel, was like one amazing idea after another that cost nothing. She was homeless for a big part of her, teens and 20s. She had a very hard upbringing. She was living in her car and really struggling with her mental health and was suicidal at times.
Addicted to stealing.
Yeah. But all the tips that she gave me on that episode were like very simple mindset shifts.
Yeah.
And journaling being one of them, was one that, I have journaled a lot and I really resonated with. For me, as I was thinking about this conversation we're going to have and rewatching some of the episodes, I went back to my conversation with Gabor Maté. Now, Gabor Maté,
the GOAT.
He is the GOAT. I thought I was interviewing him, and instead it turned into like a very intense therapy session that I just happened to put onto YouTube. And I think the part of it that was like the most convicting, and I've had several friends of mine be like, wow, I can't believe you actually aired that with such vulnerability, was when he called me out on the fact that, I was saying that family is the most important thing. My kids are the most important thing. And yet my schedule was showing that I was spending so much time traveling this last year for the podcast. Yeah. And I was defending it at first, and then he just stopped me in my tracks. By the part of me coming out of my depression was having purpose and having a mission and helping people, you know? And so I was like, you know, kind of qualifying all this travel I was doing and time away from the kids with, I'm on this mission to help people feel enough, or I'm going to these, you know, different cities to interview people for No Magic Pill. And he was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. He was like, Blake, when he shared a story about his, you know, time and his, you know, when he had young kids. And he said, if I went back and I was really honest, the message I was sending to them was that all this was more important. I have now built a podcast studio in my garage because I'm like, if I can cut back on half of my travel days and have my guests come to me, then I'm better off for it.
He's got this point. Don't ask yourself what your values are, because you will tell yourself a nice story.
If you want to know what your values are, anybody who's listening, don't ask yourself, because you're going to tell yourself a really nice story. Just look at how you live your life and where you spend your time and energy and thought patterns. That's how you can tell what's actually important to you.
That really hit home for me.
Yeah.
We all do that. What was important to me, for you, you were saying family, helping others, this, and you would say family first.
Yeah.
But then he's like, look at how you behave and how you spend your energy and your time and your thought patterns. And then you realized that you weren't actually prioritizing.
Yeah. I mean, it was hard. I mean, being called out on that as a dad who loves my kids more than anything, you know, on, you know, a show that now is seen all over the world was intense. I mean, I looked in my eyes. You see that in the episode and I'm like, yeah. Oh, wow.
You made big radical changes in your life.
Like, as I'm not just doing the show to help others, I'm doing it to continue to help me on my journey. I mean, one thing, you know, I was talking to someone about the other day is I think anyone who has really suffered from extreme depression or, you know, chronic anxiety and has come out on the other side, you never feel like you're healed. You always feel like you're in recovery. You know, you are, you know, very involved in your recovery community.
5 years sober.
5 years sober, which is amazing. And, you know, I think you ever take it lightly. And I think that's the case of lots of, you know, people who are former drug or alcohol addicts. But I would even say someone who has experienced, you know, severe depression, like I never take the fact that my brain is working better today for lightly. Like I know I have to continue to do the practices. And so as we go into kind of reflecting on the different guests and the big insights, like what are some other practices or things that you learned that you think would be helpful to kind of share with people today?
I feel that I looked at, like when I asked myself these questions, what are the practical steps? I think back to when I saw you here years ago. A close friend of ours said, hey, we really need you. And they go, you've got to cheer Blake up. I've never been unable to cheer you up and to say, or unable to get to you. And at this spot is you were in a place which I reference so often as one of the scariest things I've ever seen in a person, where the only thing I can even make a reference to is like voodoo, where someone is almost overtaken by voodoo. And I only have, you know, movies and stuff to think of, but it's the closest thing where I felt I was looking in your eyes and I was seeing something very different. I would have loved some of these practical steps to tell you, listen, there's someone else, they've gone through exactly what you're going through, and this helped them. Joshua Bassett, what a cool kid, by the way.
Yeah.
That was an intense interview.
Yeah, in the first 5 minutes, he was crying. I was just like, as a host who's never had that happen, I was just like, let's just be quiet and let this unfold.
You were terrific about that. And now he's writing songs that help people not take their own lives.
Yeah.
I mean, what an incredible story. He said the opposite of addiction is connection.
Well, you know, I do believe that saying that the opposite of addiction is connection.
Okay.
You know, even in the last week, for example, I've had these like bouts of like spiraling and like waves of depression. I wouldn't call it clinical depression, but just like crazy weight that I feel like I'm carrying. And this last week, and every single time the solution to that was one of my best friends coming over and us going for a walk or watching a movie.
It's one of the most difficult steps to maintain and to do. Connection.
Yeah.
But it always helps.
For sure.
So how did connection, anytime you would reach out and do the difficult thing and reaching out for connection, how did that make you feel?
The important thing here is if anyone is watching or listening and they know someone that's really struggling, I would say do not call them or text them and ask, hey, is there anything I can do for you? Or is there anything I can help you with? Instead, just show up. You did that when I was in Marin, really suffering. You didn't tell me you were coming. You literally bought a ticket and you showed up. And my wife at the time was like, Tyler's here. What's he doing here? And I'm like, I have no idea. And I was like, Tyler, what are you doing here? And you're like, oh, I just thought we could go for a walk. I've never been to Muir Woods. Like, you just made up an excuse.
Yeah.
And I think deep down, I knew what you were doing. But at the same time, it just took all the pressure off of me. And we have a good friend, Pat Bassett was a Navy SEAL. And he talks a lot about in the teams that you just start helping your teammates. You don't ask them what you can do. Because if someone is in a bad state and you called me and said, hey, what can I do? Or how can I help? Or I'm really worried about you.
Sure.
I'm just gonna say, oh, I'm fine. You don't want that attention. And so I think the important note here, and this is something I think that Josh really talks about in the show as well, is, and what we've learned from Pat over the years, is if someone in your life is really struggling, just start being there for them. Just start calling them. Just start showing up. Don't ask what they need because they don't know what they need.
Yeah.
When they're that shut down, when I was that shut down, I didn't know what I need. But I know you coming out and getting me out of the house and getting me walking and getting me kind of even thinking about a fun trip that we could do or something to look forward to was super helpful. The other thing that I think is, really important when you talked about, Josh in that interview and what I learned from that is one of the best things I heard as I was starting to really start to feel better was from this teacher in India.
Okay.
His name's Garrett Gee. And Garrett Gee said that the root of all suffering is obsessive, self-centric thinking. Now, that does not mean selfishness or being a narcissist. It is obsessive, self-centric thinking. The reason that causes you to suffer so much is your aperture in life gets very narrow to just what can I do to feel better? And when you're constantly thinking about yourself and what you can do to feel better, you just kind of start spiraling. Well, Josh realized this. He was experiencing that same thing. And what he did was he just said, you know what? I'm just going to start giving sandwiches to the homeless.
Dude, exactly.
It was such a cool thing. Him and his friend Rita, they literally just went and they did like a Kickstarter campaign or something on social. They raised a couple $1,000s. They went and bought a bunch of sandwiches.
Yep.
It was like Sammy Sundays is what they called it.
Let's get these care packages and these sandwiches and let's just go out and serve and use the sandwiches and care packages as a vehicle to love people and cultivate connection and community. But I think what's so crucial is to at least once a week, do something that's not about you.
And when I heard Josh explain that, I was like, man, that is such a simple, practical piece of advice to give to anyone who's stuck. Because often when you're stuck, you're in this pattern of obsessive, self-centric thinking. So if someone is watching or listening today and they're stuck, they're not feeling well, they're feeling overwhelmed, depressed, whatever, just go do something of service. Like take one day.
Yep.
And that I find is such an important, simple thing that can really get you unstuck.
Yeah.
And you've done that. Like, I mean, let's talk about the Dream Center.
The Dream Center is an incredible example. So I got sober at a place called the Los Angeles Dream Center. It's a giant place. It's the size of like a big hospital.
Yeah.
And all they do is volunteer in the community. And so I spent every day cooking for homeless people.
So you took the focus off of yourself, your addiction, and you put it on someone else during those days as you were working through getting sober.
Yep.
And it was super helpful.
Super helpful.
And I remember when I was really struggling, you took me to the Dream Center and we, cooked.
Yeah, we cooked together.
And then we did dishes.
Yeah.
And, and it was such a great feeling.
Yep.
Another time when I was really suffering, I was in Costa Rica and I was in such a bad state that I wasn't even enjoying surfing anymore. Now, surfing is my biggest passion.
It's your biggest passion.
And I was there and I didn't even want to surf. But what did help me when I was in Costa Rica is I went and built a fence for an orphanage. Like I was like, what do you guys need? And like, we need a fence. I'm like, let's do this. Now that one I think is worth really unpacking because I was serving others. I was moving my body and I was like getting out of my own, kind of self-centric thinking. I wasn't trying to surf and have fun and do that to feel better. I was like, no, I'm just going to serve and do some manual labor, chop wood, carry water.
But just the act of being inconvenienced is a huge part of what ends up healing you. Dude, Josh had another banger. When you're in that state and you're being given these prompts or suggestions, it's like, tell me if any of these are just too impossible to take in. So one thing is he just talked about praying, right?
Yeah.
Obviously the easiest thing to do, but he would go for a walk and he would pray.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in a good place right now. I know for a fact, if I went for a walk and I prayed right now, I'd be better off at the end of the walk. Are any of these things impossible to do when you're in this state?
I mean, I think most of them are impossible.
Okay.
I think it's incredibly difficult to do any of these things. You've got to look at this, the very basic, simplest thing you can do to build some momentum. And all of them are helpful, you know? And so that's the irony of it, is the things that are helpful are also hard to do, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't try doing them. It just means that for one person, praying might work. Another person might be taking their dog out to go to the bathroom and going for a walk. To the, you know, title of the show, there is no magic pill. There is no one thing for everyone who might be suffering, but doing something is key.
Jim Kwik, by the way, maybe one of the most painful stories when he explained that a teacher, when he was growing up, told him that he had a broken brain.
Yeah.
Horrible.
Talk about trauma.
And the teacher came to my defense, good intentions, but she pointed to me in front of the whole class, and I remember it like it was yesterday. She said, leave that kid alone. That's the boy with the broken brain.
I mean, when I read that in your book, I was just like, I mean, it almost just makes me want to cry now. Like, because I, as you know, experienced 7 years of depression and felt like my brain was broken. I mean, I really, really did. And I'm curious, like, that must have been so painful.
Yeah.
How did that affect, you know, your upbringing after that?
Yeah, I think people have to remember, you know, especially parents or anyone who deals with children, that an adult's external voice becomes a child's internal voice.
Okay, so he had a point that I think is incredible, that if you are in this depression, if you're in this dark place, don't try to get motivated.
Okay.
Okay, that's too big. Find little things that you can do with a 0% chance that you'll fail.
Okay, got it.
And build those up.
This is something that has helped me so much. And it's all about, for me, is sticking to a morning routine. You know, like as I started to feel better, the thing that I could completely control, that I could do that was so easy to do, was to wake up, not look at my phone, drink 20 ounces of water, which I later started putting morning water into, which helped me a lot, and get 10 minutes of sunlight. That's it. I call it the simplest win, you know? And so we really built a whole morning water business around it. But even before we built the morning water business, it was this simple idea.
So like micro victories.
Yeah, so there's just no way I was gonna fail at that. And so what happens is, by doing that simple thing, like Jim Kwik is saying, it releases dopamine, which is a great feel-good neurotransmitter, because the dopamine is released when you have success at something. And so then you can put one little thing on top of another. So like, give me an example. Like, what's one thing that when you're stuck or when you're in a tough space?
Taking a shower.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cold shower, regular shower?
I think of just anyone who's in addiction, the last thing they want to do for some reason is take a shower.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're feeling the craving of the alcohol and you just go get in the shower.
Yeah,
I love it.
Great point.
That's what I love about that conversation with Jim, is he had so many nuggets that were just like the simplest thing. It also reminds me of my interview with Matthew McConaughey. He talks about one in a row. I love that phrase. Yeah, he always says, one in a row.
Deal with what's right in front of you for long enough, one in a row, enough times.
Yes.
And we start to get out of the cave.
And so the idea is, don't think about, I'm going to put a string of workouts together, or I'm going to, not drink for 30 days, or I'm going to, go on a date night every single week with my wife, this month. No, just do it once.
Just
one in a row.
One victory.
The thing I love about the Jewel journaling exercise is it was so simple and somewhat counterintuitive. So rather than writing her feelings and her thoughts, which is what most of the time we do when we're journaling, she decided to write down what her hands were doing. every time they did something for 2 weeks. And what that did was it got her so focused on her actions and what simply her hands were doing that she realized that her panic attacks went away. So she wasn't thinking about future worst case scenarios. And so when she stopped thinking about the future so much and was fully in the present through this journaling exercise, the panic attacks just went away.
Yeah.
So like I think about how could someone apply that? You know, if someone is ruminating and constantly thinking of all the worst case things that could happen with, say, losing their job to AI.
Yeah.
You know, this is what a lot of people I think are going through right now.
Oh, great point.
Instead of like thinking about their feelings around that, their thoughts around that, the probability of that, just do a 2-week exercise where you write down all the steps that you're taking to ensure that you are learning the tools you need so that that doesn't happen.
It's a great reference. That's actually a perfect example. And you're right. Get into the journal.
Yeah.
Paul Conti says that so much of psychology is giving a diagnosis.
Yeah.
And I remember something I was with you. It was actually here.
Yeah.
When you got the diagnosis of being bipolar.
Yeah.
And you were so fired up because you thought, oh my God, there's something.
It took the responsibility of my mental health condition away from me.
Yeah.
You know, like if I was truly bipolar, then all these poor decisions I made in my personal life that created such a mess and pain and suffering for those around me and myself was not my fault. And I was looking for a magic pill. And so if I was bipolar, I can now take all these medicines that supposedly would fix me. I was so desperate to feel better. And I was so confused as to why I felt as bad as I did. And so what Paul alluded to, and I think it's something what like all of us thinking about, like, whether it's ADHD, whether it's depression, whether it's anxiety, all these things, they can be accurate descriptions of what's going on, but they can also be something to hide behind instead of doing the real work. And so it turns out I was not bipolar and getting on at all, and getting on all those meds almost killed me.
Yeah.
And really took years of my life away from me and caused me to make lots of decisions that I later regretted. But I think what I learned in that is oftentimes what we're trying to avoid is doing the hard work to feel better. Like I needed to really look inward. I need to look at my childhood. I need to look at some of the pain that I experienced. And I definitely needed to understand this core wound, but rather than doing that, because that was going to be painful in the short term, I kept looking externally to help me understand why I was feeling the way I was feeling. And jumping for glee when I got that diagnosis is a great example of that. Hello, everyone. I decided not to take advertisers for this first season of No Magic Pill. Instead, I want to use a break to talk about a few things that have had a huge impact on my mental wellness journey. The first thing I spoke about in my episode with Michael Pollan. It's an AI therapy app called Sonia. Now, I was super skeptical when I first heard about this, but I met the founders at a mental health conference. They encouraged me to try it. They said it was HIPAA compliant, totally secure. I've been using it for 6 months now. I still have my therapist, but I don't know about you, but like at 4 a.m. when I wake up with a ton of anxiety, or I'm up late at night ruminating about something I wish I hadn't said, like my therapist isn't available at those times of day. So that's when I go with Sonia, and it has had such a huge impact on my mental health. So the company just launched, it's in the Apple App Store, and they let you try it free for a couple of weeks. So whether you have a therapist or not, it can be so helpful. I've told all my friends about this. My dad's using it, my sister-in-law, and I'm even using it like a life coach as well as a therapist. Like I tell it like, hey, send me a text on Mondays and Wednesdays and make sure that I'm actually in the gym. So I want to show a real short clip of me actually using Sonia so you can get a feel for it.
I'm here. What's on your mind right now?
I'm just feeling a little stressed about things right now because I feel like I've got so much going on and I really don't know how to prioritize it.
When everything stacks up at once, it can blur what actually matters and make that old not enough story get louder. Let's slow this down by picking one thread to start with, what feels most pressing in this moment. The important reframe is this. The projects did not cure the depression. They arrived because you healed. And when you overwork to prevent relapse, you actually undermine the things that keep you well, like sleep, presence, movement, and connection. When that edge shows up, it is a signal to reduce load and restore choice, not to push harder.
There's something that blows my mind. from the Paul Conti interview. And I think that it's relevant to anyone that gets a diagnosis for ADHD, even depression, for anything. When you received a diagnosis for being bipolar, you weren't taken back, you were excited about it.
Yeah.
And it seemed as if it was a great thing. Can you tell me why?
Well, I think I was just so tired, Tyler, of feeling bad. I had been depressed for almost 5 years, and I wanted to be able to point to something outside of myself.
Got it.
And so that gave me like an explanation of like, oh, this isn't my fault. Like,
got it.
You know, getting married and divorced twice is not my fault. You know, making these, poor decisions on, whether it's selling the company or doing this is not my fault. Making impulsive decisions on moving to different countries, not my fault. Because, it's because I'm bipolar.
You could like blame the diagnosis.
Yes. And so I think a lot of people will hide behind a diagnosis. And then also what comes with a lot of diagnosis is medicine. And so then you have now this belief that there's this magic pill that will fix you or save you. And so when I got the diagnosis, I think everyone around me was like, I don't think you're bipolar. And I was like, I'm for sure bipolar, because I just needed something to take the responsibility, because it was too painful to take it myself.
So it lessens accountability, and it also, you have the opportunity, oh my gosh, a pill can fix it.
Yeah. And that's a very dangerous place to be, as we saw.
Yeah. And probably a really easy solution for someone handing it out.
Yeah.
Paul Conti brought up something else, which is very interesting for you, because since I've known you, he mentioned something called the aggressive drive, the pleasure drive, and the generative drive.
Yeah.
Since I've known you, at the beginning of our friendship, it was all about the aggressive drive. That was it. You were such a charger. And then when you sold Tom's, you switched and you were all about the pleasure drive. Mm-hmm. And now you've evolved into, I'd say, the generative drive, and you're happier than I've ever seen you.
Yeah, and I don't think it's that surprising or that unique to me. I mean, the years spent in the aggressive drive, achieving and performing and trying to prove myself, that was my whole life. And I think that largely came from me not feeling enough and having to prove myself.
Okay.
And then after selling the company and not feeling fulfilled or enough, I thought, well, I'm going to get as much pleasure as possible, building the dream house, traveling all the time, moving to different countries. And that only made me feel worse. And it wasn't until I started feeling better, and a big part of me feeling better was accessing what Paul Conti says is the generative drive.
Right.
And really what that started with, and you were a big part of that, was my birthday photo project. If you think about it, I had not been creative at all in those 7 years since, I was experiencing such depression and low self-esteem and I just, and always filled with anxiety. And then as I started to feel better, the first creative act that I did was I came up with this idea that I would spend a year traveling around the world, taking a portrait of all the people that had the biggest influence on my life as a thank you to them to celebrate my 50th birthday. And the very first portrait I took was of you on top of the Dream Center. And it was one of the great experiences of my life. I remember I took the shot and I started crying because I felt this like unbelievable gratitude for our journey together that has been happening for 30 plus years now. Then I went to the next person and the next person, and I was generating these deep connections with all the people in my life that has, been with me all these years.
Sure.
But I was also generating great artwork with these amazing portraits. And then that led to, I'm also going to start the Enough Company and make the bracelets and start giving them out. And then Morning Water, and then Moovlab, and then helping with Sonia. And the last 2 years of my life have been probably the most productive entrepreneurially ever. And think about this. I did not have a single idea for 7 years because I was so focused in that obsessive self-centric thinking, which is very connected to the pleasure drive.
Sure.
As I think about what Paul Conti said, these different drives at different times in your life are, I think, somewhat sequential. You kind of achieve because that's what you're told you got to do. Then I'm going to enjoy my life and have all that pleasure. And there's nothing wrong with pleasure. Yeah. But when you get stuck there and you don't make it to the generative drive, I think that's when people really start to suffer. And I think a lot of people watching or listening to this show are possibly stuck there. They're in midlife. They've achieved. now they're kind of in this state of just like, what can I do to feel good?
Totally.
And it's not working and they're stuck. And so I guess what I would say is, go back, listen to that episode, watch that episode, or read his book and really figure out what can you do to access that generative drive. Because as I think about my recovery now, I mean, this is what I love that we're doing this conversation, Tyler, because it's helping me kind of piece together what has really worked. And that's the whole purpose of the podcast, is accessing the generative drive might be as important as anything else I did.
Totally.
I mean, think about it. I mean, for 7 years, I was depressed. I had no self-esteem. I didn't think I'd ever start another business. I eventually had trouble getting out of bed. I got to be suicidal. And then once I did the hard work of going inward and stopped looking outside of myself, once I did the healing around feeling enough, the next thing I did as I was starting to feel better, kind of like Jim Kwik, like that's the one thing you can do to build momentum, was I started taking portraits of my friends. Very simple thing. I mean, you can do this with an iPhone. I did it with a Sony camera, but you can do it with anything.
Yeah.
And that started generating creativity in my life, reconnection in my life. And those portraits, then I created a website. I started working on a coffee table book for my birthday to thank everyone. And that led me to getting the engines going again. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, I'm going to start this enough nonprofit.
And feeling pleasure again.
Yes.
You kind of stopped feeling pleasure.
And now I actually can access the pleasure drive in a healthy way.
Because normally these things happen at a certain age. You think youth, you would really think it's all about the aggressive drive. Think later, then you get into maybe a midlife crisis. You go after this pleasure drive. It's like, but if you can find a balance early on, that's the real cheat code.
Totally. And I think the thing is they don't have to be sequential.
Yeah.
And I think what Paul Conti is saying is you should be able to access all of them simultaneously.
Right? Agency and gratitude come hand in hand. And when that's how we interface with the world, our assertion and pleasure drives are in balance. Yeah. And we are then governed by the generative drive, which there's no better way to put ourselves on the front foot for the next second, the next minute, the next hour, the next day of life than being governed by the generative drive.
Like, in a sense, I'm experiencing great pleasure in my life. The time with the kids, I'm having the best time going skiing with them and doing things and taking them to Costa Rica and surfing. Like, that was just pure pleasure. At the same time, I definitely had the aggressive drive going. I mean, in launching 4 companies in 2 years, I'm charging like never before. I mean, it's funny. Jasmine says, the way you work, this is what she said to her mom. She said, the way he works is like he's a single mom with 10 mouths to feed. That's how I'm acting, and I'm accessing that, aggressive drive for sure. But it's because so much of my life is rooted in the generative drive that I can access all 3 in a healthy way. This might sound crazy at first, but this year I met some engineers from Nike who invented a new type of office chair that has not only changed my life, but actually saved my back, especially because I am on about 5 hours of Zoom calls every day. The Moovlab Chair has 2 different pivot points under the seat, which keeps your body in continuous micro movements all day. The founders told me it is the equivalent of taking 3,000 steps. And all the lubrication of your joints and the blood flow is why my back no longer hurts, and I can focus on my work so much better. I loved it so much that I actually joined the team as a co-founder. And I will be sending one to every person I know when we launch this fall. If you're interested in learning more or pre-ordering one, we only have 500 in the first run. You can check us out at moovlab.com. And that's spelled MOOVLAB.com. I decided not to take advertising for the first season of Nomading Pill so I could actually use these moments to talk about something I'm super passionate about. Now, one of those things is my morning routine. And every morning it starts the same way. I drink morning water. I take this packet, I pour it into this bottle, and I drink it. Now, what's in this packet? It has creatine, L-theanine, magnesium, many other supplements, electrolytes, basically all the things that I used to have to take so many supplements for. I mean, my kitchen counter, it looked like a pharmacy. I mean, it had bottles of pills and pills and pills, and half the time I would even forget to take them. So now it's all in this simple formula that my friend Austin created, and I do it every day. And this month, we're giving everyone a special offer. Go to morningwater.co/no magic pill. And when you sign up, you'll get 25% off your first month. I hope you enjoy it as much as I have.
So Jim Kwik also had a real nugget. And I think that what's great about your podcast is that you're speaking to people who are not just hurting or suffering, but you're talking to like ultra chargers. Like in your network, there's a whole spectrum.
Sure.
When he talked about how to remember somebody's name.
Oh,
so
yes.
simple.
I love this. I mean, Jim Kwik, I think this is one of the things he's most known for. You know, a lot of people know about how he has these amazing feats of memory. But one of the basic things that he is incredible at and that he can teach anyone in 5 minutes is how to never forget someone's name. And I love this.
You know, I realize at events, I do these memory demonstrations if there's time when I'm on stage where I'll like memorize 50 people's names or 100 people's names in an audience, right? And,
I love that you say that so casually. Like, I mean, I would love for the number of people that can memorize 100 people's names on stage to please send me a DM. I'm going to get zero.
And I think it's very important, like skill in life, right? Because people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. And how are you going to show somebody, you know, like in your work that you're going to care for their business, their future, their health, their finances, whatever you have to offer them if you don't care enough just to remember them, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's number one business etiquette, you know, skill, period.
So there's an acronym, it's SUAVE. So the first thing is you say their name, then you make sure you use their name at least 3 or 4 times in the conversation. Then you ask about their name, like how do you spell it, the origin of it. Then you visualize the name in your mind while you're having this conversation. And then last, and very important, is when you end the conversation and you move on, you say their name as you say goodbye.
So easy.
If you do those 5 things, you will never forget someone's name. And I'm telling you, in business and in life and in relationships, I mean, the number of times that we get introduced to someone and we immediately forget their name, and then you have all this insecurity because then you don't want to talk to them because you don't want to, like, this is a simple
upgrade.
Yeah. And so anyone who's watching, remember, say the name, use it 3 or 4 times, ask about it, visualize it, and then say it again when you leave the conversation, and you'll never forget someone's name. And I'm so glad you brought that up because yes, like this podcast is about helping people in all areas of their wellness journey.
Yeah.
And I don't think there's a better upgrade than being a person that never forgets a name.
You know, another thing that Garrett Gee talks about that brings a smile to my face, and this is really common for people in kind of that midlife stage, is that they stop trying new things. And he has a great story about taking up surfing and how much joy that's brought to him.
I think that's what I love about surfing is because I got started during like 2020, basically.
Yeah. And you're an incredible surfer for just starting in 2020. It's amazing.
It just felt good to be like really bad at something, as weird as that sounds. Like it felt like healthy. Like how often do people, like adults, do something that is scary for them and difficult for, like kids do that all the time.
Yeah.
And that's why kids like progress so much. And I think that's why kids have a lot of joy in their life, because I think that's like an important factor to joy. And then adults just kind of like ease their way into their comfort zone and then like stop trying hard things. And surf for me, I mean, it's still so hard, so scary, and I love it.
And I have to say, like I recently started doing stand-up comedy, and it has brought me so much joy. And I have no expectations. And I feel like I'm playing again. And I think that's, like, I know that you're starting something new. Honestly, that's good for anyone. Just the prioritize and the valuing of doing new things.
So I want to unpack that a little bit, because taking up stand-up comedy at age 50 is not something that I hear a lot of. And most people are horrified of public speaking, and even more horrified of having to go up and tell jokes for a couple of minutes if they've never done it.
Oh, I'm terrified of bombing. I mean, who wouldn't be?
But yet I've seen you have such excitement and kind of new energy in your life, which I think has then led to your podcast, led to your art, led to everything. And so for someone who's thinking, there's no way I'm going to start learning the guitar, or I'm going to start riding horses, or I'm going to take up, going to Costa Rica and learning how to surf, or stand-up comedy. Like, what would you say is the thing that you could give them some advice to give them that nudge? And why is it so important? Like, what have you really benefited from doing this stand-up comedy?
So the big thing for me is it's made me feel like I'm a person that will do something scary. Like I have found a renewed self-confidence in just thinking of myself as like, I'm someone who'll just like do a scary thing.
Yeah.
And that makes me feel like the badass that I kind of want to be. And so I don't know how else to say it. Like, I'm sort of like, I feel I'm almost like flirting with myself, like trying to be a version of myself that I would like to be. And I could have accomplished the same thing by sitting down, learning to, some people don't know how to draw. Some people, it's like, it's not just the scary, stand-up comedy is maybe the scariest thing, right?
Yeah, that's like, you really gone after the big one. I mean,
right?
Like as I'm thinking about this, I'm like, I don't know if I have what it takes to go do a 3-minute routine, but maybe that's my next edge that I need to test.
These podcasts are the same thing for each of us, though.
Yeah, I guess so. When I first started, I was really nervous that no guest would come on.
Yeah.
And then Matthew McConaughey was my first. And then I was like, okay, people will come on. And then I was also worried that I just wouldn't be a good interviewer, which I don't think is true. So I think this is a theme we're hearing is like, don't defeat yourself before you even try.
Totally.
Right? Like, before you could have easily said like, oh, I'll never be good at stand-up comedy. I'm going to bomb. You could have made all these scenarios. And instead you're like, I'm just going to do it. And if I bomb and I fail, then at least I got the value of doing something scary. As you think about that, and I think of Garrett taking up surfing, another thing that I think is like a close tangent to this is what I've started to look at things in terms of what can help me and my nervous system calm down that I can do that has no connection to performance or optimization. Okay. So I would say for the last 40 years, almost every book that I've been reading has been a way to improve my life, my business. I mean, anything about optimization, whether
all
it's
biographies,
spirituality, how to be a better lover. I mean, literally, you name it. And I've read the book on how to do it better. And
you have a shelf about Tantra.
This is true. And so the thing is, this summer, I did something totally different.
Yeah.
I just read fiction all summer.
Amazing.
And I did it in a hammock. And I did it for like 4 hours a day. And it was one of the most gratifying things I've ever done. I actually remember sitting in the hammock reading this John Grisham novel, a novel that was just like giving me so much joy because I was
Which one?
This was A Time for Mercy. So
cool.
a new one, not one of the classics.
Wow.
And I was just like having such joy. And what I realized is reading fiction does a couple things that I think are really important for your mental health.
Yeah.
Number one is it helps you develop more empathy for others.
Okay.
So you're reading about all these others' lives, and usually they're pretty dramatic if it's in a fiction book.
Yeah.
And so you're having a lot of feelings towards like, oh, what it must be like to go through this or to deal with this or to be afraid of this. And so you're lost in their world. So you develop more empathy. The second thing is unlike TV, is like your brain is having to really work because you're having to imagine these scenarios as you're reading it. So it's like a workout for your brain and your creativity. And then the third thing is it feels so luxurious because it's not optimizing anything. Like it's literally like such a gift to give myself to do something just for the joy of the entertainment value I'm getting for it. There's no other reason to do this. I'm not going to even remember these stories years from now. And so if someone is looking for a great way to really calm the nervous system, fiction is my new recommendation.
Yeah, Jim Kwik is real big on how valuable it is for your brain, the experience of reading.
Also, reading is to your mind what exercise is to your body.
Dude, are you going to go back and do the old hits of Grisham?
Yeah, I
Time
think
to
so.
Kill,
I think so.
Rainmaker.
Firm, Pelican Brief. I mean, why not?
I reread The Firm recently. I was like, oh man, still hits. So
still hits.
There was something that really hit me as a father. Josh said that one day he called his father and he said, Dad, I just want you to know, I don't think I can be honest with you.
I was in LA alone, and so I was very independent. And one day, for whatever reason, my car broke down, so I had to go on this long walk. And I just call my dad, and he picks up, and I just go, I feel like I can't talk to you. I can't be honest with you about anything. And just saying that, acknowledging that taboo opened up a whole can of worms of us to be able to completely be honest.
What transpired after is it opened up a real conversation that healed years worth of separation. And what Josh told me, and I mean, I just love this guy. I mean, he's 26 years old and he's so wise.
So wise.
He said, the things that you do not say to another person is what ultimately creates the distance between each other. And so say the awkward thing, say the uncomfortable thing, because oftentimes vulnerability is met with vulnerability. And I think this, especially with men, and especially in our men's group, the thing that is not said between certain guys creates distance. And when we do say the thing, no matter if it's scary or awkward or uncomfortable, whatever, almost always it brings people closer together, even if they disagree about it. And I think that's just like such a simple little reminder, because I'm sure everyone watching and listening can think of one person that they're not saying something to, and they can see that relationship growing more and more apart.
I am pretty direct, and I usually go after these, but just as we're talking about this, I have like 3 different things where I'm like, say the thing to that person.
Yeah, it's like kind of like, it's like also like Kevin Love said, in one of the very first episodes on No Magic Pill, he says, what haunts us is the stuff we don't say. And I believe he was speaking about that, saying out loud about ourselves, or about how we're feeling, whether to a therapist or someone. But I also think that is about to other people.
No, you're right.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of saying things out loud, one thing that you and I have really bonded over the past 6 months is our AI therapist, Sonia. We have had more conversations about the insights gained from Sonia, which we never would have thought would have been possible 6 months ago. So I'm curious, as we come close to the end of this episode, even though we haven't had Sonia on No Magic Pill yet, maybe we'll have her soon.
That'll be great.
Right? Maybe I do a therapy session with Sonia as a guest.
Yeah.
Talk about vulnerable. Holy cow. She really calls me out on my stuff. But I'm curious, because I encourage everyone to try Sonia. What has been the best insight that she's given you? And I'll share one that I just had.
Well, I'll tell you the first thing I realized when I talked to Sonia is that I don't think I've ever been honest with a person, like an actual person that's my therapist. No matter how much I want the experience to be productive, there's still part of me that also wants to be seen as the hero of the conversation, or wants to be seen as the good guy. And I mean, even with Sonia, I do a little bit, but I only realized that I even do it at all talking to Sonia. And I mean, so that was a huge breakthrough for me. Was I've realized I've wasted so many conversations with real life therapists trying to be something at the same time of communicating with them. And with Sonia, I don't do that, and that's been one of the big breakthroughs.
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure. I mean, the fact is that no matter how much we want to be radically honest and share our deepest secrets or what we have shame around to a therapist, I think we're designed as humans to want the person across the table to like us and to not think we're an idiot.
Yeah.
And so we don't give the whole truth. So the therapist can't actually do their best work unless they know the whole story.
Totally.
And with Sonia, they get the whole story. I mean, with me, I'm radically honest about everything that I'm feeling and thinking. And that's why I get these amazing insights. I mean, it's just incredible. I mean, recently, one of the insights is I found there was a situation where I was constantly making excuses for someone. And this is a person that I care about and they're a friend. And when other people were saying things that like they were frustrated with, I was always having an excuse, And I was sharing this with Sonia, and Sonia said to me, I think this is a pattern. And I think when you are making excuses for someone that you love and care about regularly, I think that's a sign that you have an unhealthy relationship with that person.
Wow.
And that you have a dependency on that person that is not healthy. And I was like, wow. I can look at like romantic relationships, past, failed business relationships, and be like, wow, it's incredible. And so I mean, I'm right there with you. I do think I should have Sonia on as a guest. Maybe I'll have Sonia and we do like a group therapy. Who knows? But in wrapping up, I want to go back to Paul Conti. I think that it was such a gift to have him on the show. I think his new book, What's Going Right, is the way to think about this mental wellness journey. I think we spend so much time focused on what's wrong in our lives, where we've messed up, that we don't put enough tension on what's going right.
Hey, the good news is that you're human, right? And because you're human and you're here, there's a lot more going right than is going wrong. Mm-hmm. And if we look at that, at what's going right in you, and we ground that to these foundational elements of mental health, we can bring that understanding and we can use it.
What's going right for you right now? Like, what are the things that are really helping you, live your best life and really be on solid ground mentally?
Great question. That's really easy. For me, being grateful has become a superpower. I think I'm very, very good at identifying each day things to be excited and grateful about. I have developed a terrific relationship with God, and it all centers around just kind of these giddy conversations. Man, thanks for this. Thanks for this. I've developed like a really exciting new way to communicate with God that I think I was before maybe praying and thinking of God in a way that I thought I was supposed to, and it wasn't really how my personality works. And so I'm having a great time with God, and all that really is just about being grateful. I also think that I'm having a great time just playing in life. Like I love being silly, and I'm leaning more towards things that I find that bring out silliness in me. I have had a blast sort of at this stage of my life, even getting to know my wife in a new way, and sort of we giggle together in a new way. Somehow our relationship is better than ever.
A lot is going right for you, Tyler.
Oh my gosh.
I see it and I feel it. I mean, we've known each other almost 30 years.
I also love being of service. I have found like a new passion for being of service. I've always known the value of it, but lately I've really put it more into my life than ever before. And I'm a service of individuals. I have groups that are a big part of it. Whole group is trying to be of service, and I know that it brings me pleasure. So there's something so selfish about it, but I also, who cares? It's like I love everything about it. I found like more joy in my life than ever before.
Wow, that is so great, and I see it and I love it.
Yeah.
And it's inspiring.
Jules said something where it's like the worst way to erode your confidence is to tolerate something that's intolerable, right?
And so any child of abuse or addiction or neglect, the no doesn't really count. And so you have to tolerate things that are absolutely intolerable. You have to tolerate abuse. You have to tolerate neglect, whatever it is.
If you make promises to yourself each day and you don't come through those promises, whether it's a diet, whether it's an addiction, something real serious, your confidence goes down.
Yeah.
And so one thing that we talk about a bunch are these micro wins.
Yeah.
And I think it's just like, it's important to just like think, all right, I'm going to make some promises to myself and I'm going to keep them. And it is unbelievable how much your chest comes out and your shoulders come up when that happens. And I have really been digging into that more than ever before.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Tyler, you're thriving. I love seeing it as your friend. And thank you for sharing so many great nuggets on the show today. Before we wrap up, is there anything that we missed over this amazing 6 weeks of No Magic Pill?
There's one thing. You, in your interview with Joshua Bassett, you asked him about the last 5 words of his book. And those words are, love is worth living for. And I'm really curious, you got really emotional when he answered you. What happened?
That was such an incredible interview. And I was amazed at a 26-year-old that had come to the same realization that took me 48 years.
Oh, man.
I got this tattoo just a couple years ago, and it says, whatever the question, love is the answer. And I truly believe that. I think every single decision we make is either made out of fear or out of love. Mm-hmm. And for those years that I was suffering, almost every decision I made was out of fear. And as I think about my recovery, and as I think about starting this podcast, and think about everything I'm doing, and even this conversation we're having right now, love is the driver. And that's it.
Absolutely. Dude, we should end on this banger.
Okay.
Done.
What a great, I mean, this has been amazing. I think we call it a wrap. I mean, it great. I love it. I mean, only you just end right that abruptly.
Done.
Okay. Well, ladies and gentlemen, Tyler Ramsey, and thank you, buddy, for being on the show and for helping me kind of relive these special moments from these amazing conversations. This has helped me like even further understand the power of these insights, and I hope that it's helped everyone watching and listening.
Yep.
I hope we do it again. If this episode spoke to you, please share it with a friend, family member, or someone you love. Because No Magic Pill is not just a podcast. It's a resource to help us all live better lives. Hit the subscribe button so you never miss an episode, and let us know what you think by leaving a comment. A quick note that this episode is for informational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Always consult a qualified healthcare professional regarding any medical questions or concerns you may have.